I'm Ethan, an Oregon Park ranger patrolling the trails surrounding Blackthorn Ridge. Ravens Loop is one of them, a short 20-minute walk from the area community college, so it's always populated with kids, smiling, snapping photos, living. Saturday morning is different, however. The teens are typically nursing hangovers from Friday night parties, so the trail is deserted, except for the occasional jogger or dog walker. It's my favorite shift, peaceful, just me and the pine trees, sipping bottom-shelf gas station coffee. Last spring, on April 12th, I was patrolling as usual. The air was crisp and clean, and the trail was almost silent. I was halfway through Ravens Loop when I noticed a girl stumbling in front of me. She was young, perhaps a freshman, and was wearing a torn tank top and shorts. Not typical attire for hiking. She was unsteady, about to fall, swaying with each step. I assumed she was a drunk kid who lost a bet until I caught a whiff of a strong chemical smell. Gasoline. My gut dropped. Something was amiss, very wrong. "Hey, are you okay?" I ask, trying to keep my voice firm so that I don't scare her. She stiffened, then turned, and I almost spilled my coffee. Her face is a mess. Her cheek is swollen and purple, and there's a bloody cut above her eyebrow. She's shaking. Her eyes are wide with fear, and she says, They're coming for me." Before I can say anything, her legs buckle under her, and she falls onto the ground, gasping for air. I dash over, my heart pounding. "Whoa, wait! What's your name? What happened?" I dig through my backpack for my water bottle and hold it out to her trembling hands. She gulps it, gasping, and whispers, "Lila, my roommates, they did this." Roommates? My head is spinning. Gasoline fumes are filling the air, overpowering her clothes. This was not an accident. Someone attempted to burn her. "Lila, hold on, I'm calling for help," I tell her, grabbing my radio. "Base, it's Ethan. I have a girl on Ravens Loop, badly injured. Send medics, stat." She's looking at me, eyes glazed, hanging in there by a thread. "Don't let them get me," she says, her voice cracking. "Tina, she was so angry." I'm looking around the trees, expecting someone to leap out. "Who is Tina?" "Speak to me, Lila." But she's just shaking her head, rambling. They laughed. They all laughed. My flesh is crawling. I'm imagining a bunch of kids out there, perhaps still following her. The EMTs arrive quickly, thank God. They're putting Lila on a stretcher. She's breathing weakly but steadily. I can't help but recall what she said to me. "They're coming." I call my buddy Sam, who just so happens to be nearby. "Hey Sam, get to Ravens Loop." "We've got a problem. Lila said her roommates jumped her. They might still be around." He arrives within 10 minutes, and we start searching the trail together, my heart still racing. We're moving quickly, checking every shadow, when Sam shouts, "Ethan, over here!" He's discovered a clearing. A cold campfire, crushed beer cans, a shattered phone, and a pile of rags that smell of gasoline. Then I see it. A bloody shoelace tied tightly around a twig, half buried in the dirt. "Jesus, Sam, this is screwed up," I whisper. He's pale and just nods. "You think they're still around?" I don't answer, but I squeeze my flashlight tightly and listen for any noise coming from the woods. We continue searching, but the trail is vacant. No tracks, no voices, only the sickly smell of gasoline hanging in the air. The forest seems to have absorbed whatever occurred here. A week later, I'm at the station, shaken, when the news breaks. Lila is 19 and a college art student. Her roommates, their so-called friends, Tina, Alex, and a guy named Kyle, asked her out by the campfire. It was a setup. Tina was furious because Lila had taken her car without permission. A stupid fight that escalated. Alex, who had this weird crush on Lila, egged her on, and Kyle tagged along like a wimp. They got drunk and things went wrong. Tina yelled, "You think you're so perfect?" and smashed a bottle on Lila's head. They kicked her when she was on the ground, splashed her with gas from a can, and tried to burn her. The only reason they're alive? Kyle's lighter didn't work. When they left to go find a burning branch on the fire, Lila took off, hiding in a creek bed, bleeding and terrified, until she crawled out at dawn. The police arrested Alex, Tina, and Kyle after Lila testified. They're in jail now, and the trial is still ongoing, but the news is out everywhere. I keep thinking about that place in the woods, the bloody shoelace we found. Sam tells me we took it as evidence, but it doesn't appear in the report. No record, no trace. Last week I went back to Ravensloop alone, and I heard it. A soft click-click of a lighter in the trees. I stopped, shining my light, but I didn't see anything. Just black. I tell myself it's just my head playing tricks, but I haven't slept well since. Lila is safe and the bad guys are in jail, but that shoelace, that sound, it feels like the trail is still holding on to something, waiting. My name is Liam, and I'm a park ranger out of the Black Hills of South Dakota. Grew up in Rapid City, so these woods are home. 5 years at this job, I've had my share. Lost hikers, frightened deer, even the occasional bear. But nothing like what happened to me in July of 2024. It began with a call that caused my stomach to twist and still haunts my dreams. My phone rang at 5 a.m., too early for good news. Nate, my friend at the Custer State Park station, had called, sounding shaken as if he had seen a ghost. Mike, a camper, had entered the office, shaking, and reported that he awoke to dead deer around his tent. Not dead, torn apart. He was too afraid to return and wouldn't even retrieve his belongings. I thought maybe a coyote had gotten to them, but Mike's fear persisted. He said there was a U-shaped pond, which had to be Harney Pond. I said I would check it out, took my coffee and left. Driving up the hills, the pine trees were clumped tightly together. Mike's call was continually annoying me. A grown man, near 50 probably, fleeing deer? I have seen many dead animals on the road and predators, but something in his tone did not sit right with me. He said it was a slaughter. That word lingered with me, heavy and wrong. I tried to call Nate for more information, but Mike was no help. He kept describing it as a mess, like in a nightmare. All he could recall was a mangled pine tree by his camp, the one the locals refer to as the Witch's Claw. I drove to the area of Harney Pond, and the air was thick with pine and something else, something like blood. Hiking toward the Witch's Claw, I saw a deer hoof solitary in the ground, with fresh blood sparkling in the morning light. My heart started racing. This was not a coyote. Coyotes don't leave trophies. I pushed back the underbrush, and there it was, a blue tent with a scene of horror surrounding it. 5 deer were ripped apart, with guts and fur scattered about like confetti. Their skulls were in a neat arrangement, looking up at me. I've cleaned fish and field-dressed animals. But this was unnerving. This looked planned. My hands shook as I used my radio to tell Nate to block off the area. Whatever this was, it was not hunting. I stood there, gazing at the skulls, their empty sockets staring back at me. My stomach was warning me to get out of there, but I had to know more. I circled the tent, hunting for tracks, claw marks, something. Nothing made any sense. No paw prints, no claw marks, just that weird 5-sided shape and a thin blood trail into the forest. I followed it, my heart pounding, to a tree with a newly cut X in it, the sap still dripping. At the base of it, half buried in the earth, was a knife, ancient, rusty, with a bone handle. It was genuinely old, like from a museum, not a camp. I stuffed it in a bag, my head spinning. Was this Mike's? Some guys? Something else? At the station, Mike was a mess, slumped in a chair, coffee undrunk. I attempted to speak with him, but he looked down at the floor and mumbled something about a warning. He had taken his wife's ashes out to the hills to scatter them, a vow he had made to her before she passed away. Now he was shaking, claiming he had been watched all night, even in town. I questioned him about the knife and the ex, but he claimed not to have ever seen them. His eyes darted to the window as if something lurked there waiting for him. I let him be. He was already lost in thought. I went to Clara's ranch afterward. She was an older lady who had lost 5 deer in a fortnight. She was angry. She spat tobacco and swore at anyone messing with her animals. Her fences were close, barbed wire, no gaps in them. There was no way those deer just wandered off. She also grumbled about developers who wanted to buy her property, wanting to build condos. I inspected her fences myself, and she was correct. Nothing could pass through. So, how did those deer get into Mike's camp, mutilated like that? It was personal, as if someone was making a statement. But to whom? Mike or Clara? I summoned Sarah, our wildlife specialist, to examine the remains. She touched the skulls and frowned. The wounds were too random to be the work of a bear or man. But that 5-sided shape? That was no accident. She said nothing, but I could see fear in her eyes. I couldn't help but remember that knife, the X. Locals speak of the Black Hills Phantom, a ghost story from the Gold Rush era about a miner betrayed and cursed to roam these woods. I never saw it as anything more than a legend, but that knife didn't sit right. It seemed out of place, as if it didn't belong to this time. The sheriff's department was useless. They rolled their eyes and told me it was kids playing a prank. Kids don't rig skulls. I went back myself, much as that was a terrible idea. The air was thick, like the trees were watching me. I double-checked the X, and that's when I heard something. A twig snap, very close. I turned to look for it, hand on the radio, but it was dead. It had been charged that morning, but now it was dead. Another twig snap, louder, came out of the darkness. I yelled out, "Who's there?" There was no response, just nothing, heavy and hard to breathe. I ran to my truck, looking back. A shadow moved, tall, fast, and gone. My heart was pounding as I drove away. That evening, I couldn't shake it. The 5-sided shape, the knife, the shadow. I had the knife tested by experts. Human blood, too old to test. The sheriff closed the case and said it was likely an old knife from a hunter. Case closed. Mike took off in a rush and didn't leave a number. Clara's deer ceased vanishing like it simply stopped. But I continued patrolling, keeping close watch. Then, a week ago, I discovered another X close to Harney Pond, as new as the first. Last night, while I was hiking back, I heard footsteps behind me, keeping pace. I turned around, but there was nothing there. But I know what I heard. Something is out there, and it's not finished. Jake Ramsey preferred the Nevada desert over anywhere else. He was a lean man who knew all the plants in the Great Basin National Park. He was born in Reno in 1982 and grew up dodging rules and fighting with anyone who attempted to control him. At 30, in 2012, he became a park ranger and married Lila, his high school buddy, a rifle specialist who could hit a target with a rifle from 50 yards. They stayed in an old trailer close to the park, joked over pizza, and mapped their hikes. But on March 15, 2013, Jake departed from their residence, and the desert engulfed him. Jake slung his backpack over his shoulder, and his green jacket shifted as he picked up his radio. "Hey, Lila, I'm going to take a look at the Wheeler Peak Trail," he said, sounding happy but glancing at the dark trees beyond the window. Lila, who was brushing her teeth, leaned out of the bathroom. "Now? It's cold up there, Jake. Are you sure?" He smiled, not hearing her worry. "Hikers are always saying they hear weird sounds. It's probably just coyotes. I'll be home at 5, okay?" Lila spat toothpaste into the sink, smiling. "You better, or I'm taking your pizza." He laughed and his boots crunched on the gravel as he disappeared from view. That was the last sound she heard from him. By 8 o'clock, Lila was pacing back and forth in their trailer, phone in hand, her heart pounding with anxiety. "Mike, he's not here," she said to the head ranger, her voice shaking. "Jake's never late. Something's wrong." Mike took slow breaths, attempting to remain calm. "Maybe he's repairing a trail sign or something, Lila. We'll check." She wasn't soothed. Repairing a sign? His radio's dead, Mike. You know he always carries that thing with him. She banged her fist on the counter, and a coffee mug tipped over and shattered on the floor. Hours later, Mike and 3 rangers were combing the Wheeler Peak Trail, flashlights shining rays through the night, calling out Jake's name. The desert was silent, with no sign of him anywhere. The following morning, Deputy Carla Vega arrived at the park, her short hair and no-nonsense demeanor evident. Lila caught her arm before she was even started. "Carla, Jake knows these paths better than anyone. He didn't get lost." Carla cocked an eyebrow, pulling out her notebook. "You think something else went on?" Lila hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's been acting weird lately. He was rambling on and on about shadows and lights in the caves. I figured it was just hikers playing around, but..." Carla scribbled wildly, her jaw clenched. "Shadows, huh? Okay, let's go." The search began in earnest. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers. But days passed and Jake was still missing. Then, on the 5th day, a volunteer produced a ripped piece of green cloth, reddened, caught on a juniper branch. Lila's knees buckled. "That's his jacket," she breathed, her fingers trembling as she touched the cloth. Was that Jake's blood, or was someone playing a sadistic joke? The search continued for months, but the park produced nothing. Lila refused to give up. She posted missing notices across Reno and organized weekend hikes to scour the trails. One evening in a bar, a truck driver named Ray cornered her, reeking of whiskey. "I saw something that day," he said, glancing around. "Your guy, Jake, was in an old Chevy with 2 men racing out of the park." Lila's heart was pounding. "Are you sure? What did they look like?" Ray leaned in and said in a whisper. One had a snake tattoo on his neck. The other man was huge, bald, and he looked cruel. Jake was slumped between them, looking terrible. Lila's voice trembled. "Why didn't you tell the police, Ray?" He shrugged and looked away. "I didn't want to get involved. Those men, they're cartel men. You don't mess with them." Lila rushed to Carla with the news, but the Chevy's plates were on a list of stolen plates. A dead end. However, Ray's testimony changed the case. Carla began hearing rumors of drug runners using caves in the park as hideouts. "Jake may have seen something he shouldn't have," she said to Lila, sounding grave. Had he stumbled upon a cartel transaction, or was Ray drunk and spouting nonsense? 6 months later, Lila was desperate, hiking at night alone and shouting Jake's name into the blackness. In a gas station, a local woman, Missy, grasped her arm with crazy eyes. "Jake's not dead, Lila. I felt it on Wheeler Peak. There's something wrong up there, like a hole in the air." Lila shook her arm free of Missy's. "Missy, stop it. I don't need your crap." Missy wouldn't give up. "I dreamed I saw him, screaming and circling rocks. Check the ravine." There are carvings." Lila laughed, but couldn't shake what she'd heard. The next day, she hiked up to the ravine and stopped. Sharp spirals were carved into a boulder, new and clear, like eyes staring back at her. Jake once sketched something similar in his notebook, calling it weird graffiti. Had he sensed something, or was it an accident? A year went by, and a letter appeared on Carla's desk in large letters. "Talk to Eddie Cruz in Ely Jail." He knows about Ramsey. Carla and Lila tracked down Eddie, a nervous smuggler, with a smile that made Lila nervous. "Yeah, I heard things," he said, reclining. "Your guy went into a cave near Baker Creek. Saw a drop-off. Snake and Big Al weren't happy." Lila leaped forward, yelling, "Are you saying they killed him?" Carla restrained her, but Eddie shrugged. "Didn't say that. Snakes don't like loose ends, though." Lila's hands trembled as they scoured the caves at Baker Creek, finding only bat droppings, until Carla spotted a glint in a crevice. It was Jake's wedding ring, scratched, but still his. Lila clutched it tightly, weeping. He was here. They took him. Days later, Eddie was beaten in jail, and his secrets were lost. Snake and Big Al? Lost, likely over the border. Was the ring evidence of murder, or had Jake left it here for a purpose? 2 years after that, in 2015, Carla phoned Lila, her voice strained. "Found something in an abandoned mine shaft off the trail. You have to see this." Lila sped to the site, heart lodged in her throat. In a ruined mine, smelling of wet ground, they discovered a skeleton. Dental records verified it. Jake. A fractured skull indicated a blow to the head. Next to it is a rusted knife with a snake symbol on the handle. "That's Snake's," Carla said, her face set. But then came the gut punch. In Jake's pocket was a crumpled note. "Lila, I'm sorry. Had to escape. Debts got bad. Love you." Lila shook her head, weeping. "No way. Jake wouldn't leave me. Someone made him write this." Carla wasn't so certain. "Found gambling receipts in his locker, Lila. Thousands. He was in deep." Lila buried Jake, his ring now on a chain around her neck. The case closed. Snake and Big Al remained ghosts, their trail gone cold. Lila still hikes Wheeler Peak, swearing she hears Jake's voice on the wind. Some rangers whisper the carvings in the ravine glow in the dark, but no one follows up. Did Jake cross the wrong cartel hoods? Did he stage his death to escape debt? Or is something darker in the Great Basin's shadows? Lila's still searching, and the desert's still silent.